Okay, we gotta talk. So, this is one of those things that it happened. I didn't think I was going to make a video on it. And then the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, no, I do actually need to talk about this. So, I need to talk about J.K. Rowling's latest thing that she said about Dumbledore and his relationship with Grindelwald. So, Ms. Rowling, I want you to know that what I'm about to say is coming from a fan. This is not idle. I've been a Harry Potter fan since the summer of 2001 when I read the first book and burned through the available ones right away, watched all the movies, read the remaining books as they came out, and I have greatly enjoyed this series and what's been put out. And I can understand how we got to where we are right now with LGBTQ plus depictions in your world. But we need to talk about them because you have now gone on record and said some more details. And I'm going to read some of them because I don't want to misrepresent your words. So, what was said in regards to Dumbledore and Grindelwald? Their relationship was incredibly intense, it was passionate, it was a love relationship. But as happens in any relationship, gay or straight or whatever label we want to put on it, no one knows really what the other person is feeling. You can't know, you can believe you know. So I'm less interested in the sexual side, though I believe there is a sexual dimension to this relationship, than I am in the sense of the emotions they felt for each other, which ultimately is the most fascinating thing about a human relationship. Now, here's the thing. You're not wrong, but your wording makes me concerned, but that's also very, very secondary because, and I mean this with as much respect as I can muster, please stop talking. Now, I can understand why you might be confused or frustrated because, when you first talked about the fact that Dumbledore was gay, which I, for one, am prepared to grant you the benefit of the doubt and believe you when you say that was always in your mind writing the character. There are people who will claim that it was a retcon you were applying. I don't believe that. I am prepared to believe that that was always in your mind, but it was not made explicit in the text. And I can even work with that given that the texts were from Harry's perspective. There isn't really a reason why he would have known that. So I can roll with all that. And at the time you initially said it, which was, 2008, 9. It was the tail end of that decade. It was met with surprise, but also it was a very welcome revelation. For members of the LGBTQ plus community, it was a confirmation that, oh my God, we exist. Not only do we exist, one of the iconic, biggest, and most important characters in this world is one of us. And you were praised for that, by and large. And it must be frustrating for you to now be getting shouted at and finger waved towards by the same community that used to praise you. The thing is, the climate, the world, and the community and the expectations have changed. Your approach to representation has not. And what you did initially in telling us, that was a big deal at that time. 10 years or so later, that is not only not a big deal, it's also not enough. Not when you are providing us new works featuring this character and continue to not make it text. Now, I don't feel like I should have to get into why it is important to actually make Dumbledore's sexuality text if you're going to continue to bring it up in interviews or separate from the works itself. But maybe I do because the way you worded your statement, saying that you're more interested in the emotions than the sex, so are we. When we say we want explicit representation, it's not explicit as in sexually explicit, adult content only. That's not what we're talking about. But it has to be undeniable. It needs to be in the text, stated plainly in some way. Not vaguely hinted at, not danced around, and for the love of God, not said by the author in a way that you wouldn't have known or identified this if all you did was take in the work. So when I say please stop talking, I don't mean shut up. I mean act. Because all you've been doing for the last decade is telling us, reassuring us, oh, there's a gay person. Really, there is. No, that relationship is super important. Oh, it's important to me. It's important to him. It's important to the world. Give us evidence of that. You have burned through your goodwill in terms of being able to get the benefit of the doubt from us because you have been providing us nothing concrete. And I say that as someone who, honestly, if nothing had been said at any point, and I simply watched The Crimes of Grindelwald, it would still not be a very good movie. I'm sorry, it isn't. But the hinting towards Dumbledore and Grindelwald is not poorly handled. But in the wake of your continued claims that Dumbledore is in fact gay, it is insufficient. Because you need to understand that right now, the impression that you are giving, and I am trying very hard not to accuse you of this myself, but certainly the impression that you are giving and the way that you are behaving is consistent with somebody who wishes to have the recognition and the praise that comes with diversity inclusion, but does not want to risk alienating potential readers or viewers by actually including it specifically in the work that you are producing. So you get to try and placate us by assuring us that no, really, there are gay people, while at the same time, anyone who does not like that idea is not forced to deal with the fact that there are gay people here because it is not clearly displayed in the work, in the films, in the books. Because until it is, as far as I'm concerned, this entire notion that Dumbledore is gay, it's fan theory. And yes, the author can have fan theory, because if what you're claiming is not specifically backed up by textual evidence, then what you are claiming about this work is no more inherently valid than any fan theory. Because you're just throwing out speculation without evidence. And you can try and claim the authority of the author, but you've been doing that for too long now. We're not going to grant you that authority anymore. You don't get to tell us that Dumbledore is gay and never show it and have us swallow it anymore. And I don't like saying this. I love these stories. I love this series. I want the movies to get better again, but I don't like to feel manipulated and taken for granted and taken advantage of. I devoted a video a little while back about the lack of representation and brought it down to numbers. And I noted that, and I'll note it again here. I would not be hammering on the wizarding world and the world of Harry Potter to include explicit LGBTQ plus representation if you yourself had not brought that up. I don't demand inclusion in everything. If a creator doesn't see a place for somebody like me, or someone who is gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender or asexual or genderqueer or gender fluid, which is what I am, or anything else, if they don't see a place for them, they're not obligated. to represent them or me. But you brought it up. You told us that we were there. You told us that we exist in this world. And you have been saying that now for a decade. And you won't prove it. And there are and have been and will continue to be people who will make excuses for you about how this is intended for kids, about how these stories are currently set in the 20s, about all these things, none of which precludes your ability to just make it clear. How? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you how. It's your creation. You're the author. But you have been claiming, and now continue to claim, and keep doubling down on this claim. Stop. Because at this point, even if we get the explicit, clear representation of Dumbledore as a gay man in the next film that we need at this point, you still shouldn't have said this. Because if you're taking action, you need to let those actions speak for themselves. Because your words don't carry weight right now. And until you do commit some actions that back them up, they won't carry weight. So even if in the next script that you've written, it's there, and it's already there, and you know it's going to show up, you still shouldn't have said it. Stop talking. Make it real, then let it speak for itself. Because this phantom representation, this author headcanon representation, it's not enough anymore. And it doesn't become more than that until we see it. So until we see it, please stop talking about it. People may ask you. Just say, wait and see the next film. Or if you're still not going to show it, if it's not in the next film, and you did this anyways, if you said, oh yes, it was real, and it was sexual, and it's still not made clear in whatever the next film is called, I won't have words anymore. I will be too frustrated and disappointed to speak kindly, so most likely I will choose to not speak at all. I say that, but then I know me, I'll have something to say, but either do it or don't. And in either case, please stop talking about it. That's all for this one. Thank you for listening. I do not presume that Miss Rowling actually will view this. So those of you who did, stuck to the end, thank you. Bunch of links down in the descriptions. Buttons, they do things, links, they take you places, such as the Patreon, and there's other links to check out besides. I've written stuff, you can buy it, there's merch. Give it a look down in the description, or don't. You don't have to, it's okay, because at the end of the day, it's you who are the council, and I just run the meetings. Until next time, this council is adjourned.